Okay, so what I was saying is that, one of my favorite Barcelona games of all time is Barcelona-Chelsea 2012. Remember that game, we lost against Chelsea, and Torres scored a goal like at the end.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, because the amount of chances that were generated on that game, where I don't know, it was like 25 or something like that. It was crazy, and I remember Guardiola playing a 3-4-3, or sorry, it was a 3-3-4. So it's four strikers, and we still couldn't score a goal because Di Matteo put a very, very good defense there, and I can't complain. I can't complain about that game. We just lost the way we're supposed to lose. I don't want to lose like playing a conservative football, like trying to keep the ball. At the end of the day, you lose the ball 1 second and they can score a goal. So I'd rather score 10 goals if I can, and if they score 8 goals, I'm cool with that.
Right. See me, I'm opposite. Not opposite, but I like 1-0. I like 2-0. You know what I mean? That's my style. If we win 3-1, 4-1, 4-0, I'm ecstatic. But I understand that's the style more in Spain, or I wouldn't even say in Spain. That's been Barcelona's kind of MO a little bit.
Yeah, I think
recently is score as many goals as possible and use the attack as the defense.
Yeah, like you said, that's been Barcelona style since the 90s, bro. Like since Johan Cruyff had been the coach.
True.
And there has been differences between the coaches, but at the end of the day, I hear a lot of people complaining about Flick, how he risks everything or whatever. But the coaches before were the same way. Like if you see Luis Enrique's games and Guardiola's games,
maybe the defenders were different.
A little bit of differences, but at the end of the day, it's the same style. Xavi was definitely more on the conservative side. That's why his games were 1-0, 2-1. But he would play attacking football too. Like it was more about controlling the midfield. And then Guardiola, he would be kind of crazy sometimes, like 3-3-4 formations and stuff, which I loved. And Luis Enrique would be much more of a direct attacker. And he also had the Messi, Neymar, and Suarez. So it was to find the game really.
I think for me, like that era was a bit different because you're talking about guys like Piqué at the back. You're talking about guys like Puyol. Even going back to Rafa Marquez. You know what I mean? Like there was always a star defender in Barcelona's defense. Now you're talking about an era where, and you know what I mean, that too.
Because at the end of the day, if you put Messi in any team, it's like a cheat code basically. He can solve games that are stuck all the time.
Right.
Neymar too. I would think Neymar would be the second one and we have two of those guys. Nowadays, we have Lamine, which is the kind of guy that he can unstuck a game with a genius play, whatever, but he's not there yet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's
for
a different type of
He can pester. He's a pester. That's what Lamine is. He's a pest for any team facing him. He's not a killer bee yet, but he's a good pest.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it.
Neymar, they were complete players. This guy could give you a pass, could score an incredible goal. Like it was like I said, a cheat code, right? These two guys were a cheat code for sure. And on top of that, you had Suarez too, which is another cheat code, right? More like I think
for sure. But for all intents and purposes, I still believe Barcelona's in good shape going forward offensively and everything like that. I think that they can compete when they're healthy, especially they can compete with any team, no problem, But where I question, and like I was saying with the goal that happened to make it 2-1, even though they should have been given more goals and stuff like that, it's like those moments, you're not only going to be facing Real Sociedad, you're going to be facing Bayern Munich, Inter Milan, Juventus, whoever it is, right? Like these teams that they're not going to give you, you know what I mean, that much of a breathing space, in those moments, right? As we kind of seen with Inter as well last year a little bit, with the back and forth and the clash and stuff like that. So I still would like Barcelona to figure out a way, or I don't know if it's the system or if it's getting another defender to support. I would like to see that happen.
It's also the format of the tournament too. Like it's okay to concede a goal and even to lose a game now. Because at the end of the day, 38 games throughout the season, and out of I was listening to a guy from.
It should have been 3 points. It should have been 3 points though, regardless.
If you play like that 10 games, you're going to win
3 points. Right? Yeah.
So, but if you play, if you play in the Champions League where it's like a knockoff kind of system, those then 10 games are just one game. You can have that one bad day, and then
the risk is there.
The risk is always there. So it's definitely different. That's why Barcelona does so well on the league, because it's the way they understand football, and I'm okay with that. I think we put a lot of price on the Champions League, as we should not, because I think not always the best team wins the Champions League. Is the one that wakes up. But again, there is other variables, like for example Barcelona this season. I feel that, and we can start talking about Cancelo because of this. Having more subs and more options on the bench, it's something that can make that little bit of a difference to like be more competitive in those important games. And I think that's why Cancelo is actually a great addition to the team right now.
Right. And what I realize is Frankie de Jong as well. He's kind of finally come in the last couple of years into what everybody expected him to be. You could talk about Cancelo too coming in, but I know Frankie De Jong, I'd say for his first few years, he was great, but he wasn't, as effective as he is now. I think he knows this team a little bit better, and he's able to be himself more, So I know that's helping a lot too, because I see him covering a lot. I see him doing a lot of covering and passing.
Smart passing. A lot of people don't understand the impact he has on the team. How he keeps a couple of lines with those runs. It's crazy. He's a captain now. I saw him on the ground trying to get the ball, nice tackling as well. And I think with Pedri on his side,
he feels comfortable.
He feels comfortable. But he kind of needs Pedri. And another signing that we're going to have this last bit of the season is going to be Gavi. You guys are forgetting about Gavi. He's an unbelievable player to have on the bench too.
True. So with Cancelo coming in, do you think that it's Balde that's going to get the be kind of competing for the spot? Do you think it's Koundé? I mean, I've seen Koundé have some great games this year, and I've seen him have some questionable games, right? And then Balde, it seems like he had the position locked down a little bit, and I think now they're exploring and seeing, whether somebody could be better, right? Because he was actually scoring and assisting. His output was a lot greater, I think, last year and maybe the year before than this year, right?
I think Cancelo was like the cheapest option that we could have gotten, and the best as well in that regard, because I feel that it's just we have so many games ahead. Like we have Copa del Rey, we have Liga, we have Champions League. There's so many games ahead that I think we needed somebody else in that place. And so I don't think it's going to be Koundé or Balde who's going to be competing for the position. I think Cancelo is coming as, one addition to the team. Remember that Koundé can play as a center back as well. So there are going to be games where they're pretty stuck and we need more attacking guys there. So we're probably going to play with Cancelo at right and Balde on the left. So we have very, great kind of an additional
more of a natural. That's natural fullbacks, right? Yeah. Koundé isn't a natural fullback, so it would be more natural.
There will be games where he will play there, and there will be games where Balde is probably not going to be in the best shape, and he's going to have to play. Cancelo can play on the left and cover that. Or also remember that Cancelo is right-footed, so he could be an additional midfielder in the inside when Balde is not playing, right? So I think I remember that in the Champions League last year with Inter, I think we didn't have Koundé, so that little thing might have made a huge difference in the result on that particular game. So that's why we have it's those additional elements to the squad. I think they're the ones that are going to make a difference in this type of games, Champions League and important Liga games too, because you cannot keep all the players in shape all year. It's very, very difficult. And I think Flick is very cautious with his players too. Like if the player feels a little bit bad, he wouldn't put it on. And last year he didn't have that option to be cautious, right? Sometimes he had to force certain players. And he didn't like that because he wants his players to be 1,000% for his level for his way of playing football, where you have to press. The intensity has to be 120%. That's why he needs his players to be completely healthy, and he doesn't like to play players that need to force. Rafinha had like a small injury. That's why he didn't play against Real Sociedad, right? But we had the option of playing a 4-2-2-2 with Olmo and Fermin basically on the same line, right? And Lamine was as a winger, and then we had Ferran as a number 9. So, variables are the things that are going to be able to keep the players 100% for the important games. I think Flick is what he wants, right? He can play Rashford when Rafinha is not healthy. Like, there's more options this year. So, in my opinion, although we have not seen the best football comparing to last year, I think the intensity was a bit higher, but I think this year we have more options, right? So, I think in that regard, we might be able to be more competitive in that sense.
Right. No, it makes sense. There's still room for improvement, exactly like I said. But I still see you guys as one of the most intense teams in Europe, as far as intensity, like you're saying, with the 120% that Flick likes them to give. And I think we'll see how everything develops. It's gonna be tough. Because, like you said, with the rotating La Liga. So, Real Madrid, we can talk about them quickly. I know obviously they've been going through some of their own turmoil, but clearly they've been keeping up to still maintain their position. I know that they've had, it's their La Liga season, I guess, has kind of gone under the radar a little bit, because it's often highlighted by the losses against Barcelona but give me your thoughts on them, the whole Xabi Alonso situation, Arbeloa coming in. What do you think?
I think it reminds me a little bit of when Setien was in Barcelona. I don't know if you remember that.
Who?
Setien. It was
Kike. Yeah, Kike.
Yeah. So basically, I think Xavi, he's done he's just kept the job that Ancelotti was doing. He tried to make changes that the players didn't like, and we all know that Florentino Perez is more of a player's president than of a coach. So he would do whatever the players are more comfortable with.
Right.
And I think that's the problem with him. And also every single game that Madrid has won this season, or I would say like 80% of the games have been kind of questionable, not only for the referee calls, but also for the type of football they're playing. Because Xabi Alonso came to kind of make a revolution on the style of football. He couldn't do it in many games, and he's like kept that like defensive kind of style surviving. And I think so it's like Florentino said, okay, if you're not even changing the style of football, and we're losing against Barcelona here, and the players don't like you, it's time to part ways. And and I think that's what happened, especially, right? He has diminished the level of Vinicius and Bellingham, but he has exploded Mbappe. So there's pros and cons on what he's done.
Right.
But in my opinion, it's just that if you're going to have a coach that, the players don't like, and you're not even changing my style of football, I better have somebody else there that the players are more comfortable with and can do the same what we were doing last year. Because Ancelotti was sacked last year, in my opinion, for no reason. He did 84 points on the league. He played against Arsenal last year on the Champions League and lost. Like, it's okay to lose. And just because Barcelona was better, it doesn't mean that Madrid was doing so badly last year. So I think he could have stayed one more year, but he also had the deal. He went to Brazil to work with the national team and stuff. And I think the fact that Florentino wanted to change things, but then he regretted, and then he brought someone that has the same, kind of friends of the players, more like a defensive Mourinho style of coach.
I think the whole Xabi Alonso thing. Number one, maybe the Ancelotti sacking wasn't necessary, but it was very naive. I think it was very naive to look at the Bayern Leverkusen project and be like, okay, you know what, he's done so well here, let's just put him over and bring him. He's already a Madrid star. I think what he did in Bayern Leverkusen really was, I don't want to call it exaggerated, but at the same time, it's a different league. It's a different, you know what I mean? This is not La Liga. There's so many players that go to the Bundesliga and say, oh, I can't believe how much space I have here. I can't believe, I can play my game. If you look at Luis Diaz, he made the transition from Premier to the Bundesliga. He's absolutely killing it. And then we look at the flip side of it with the players that got sold. Look at Florian Wirtz, Jeremy Frimpong, a couple of the players that got, transferred from Bayern Leverkusen for these ridiculous amount of fees. So it seems like the coach, the players, everything that's come from Bayern Leverkusen off their amazing little run, was very naive on everybody. You know what I mean? Because it is what it is. I
wouldn't say naive, because I think actually like Xavi did a great job in Leverkusen. I don't think I don't know if you know that Ten Hag was sacked for 4 games from that same team. Right. So I think it's a lot. It has to do a lot.
But that's after they lost so many players, right?
Yeah.
So they lose so many players, so many of their main players. They're creating a whole new team. Of course, any coach that goes into there is going to be a bit of a whirlwind, But personally, I think through the results that's shown, and you're right. You know what? Xabi Alonso, his record wasn't even that bad at Real Madrid. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he also asked for a lot of
it was like, oh, he's doing good here. Let's just put him here, and it's going to work. That's the naive part I'm saying. You know what I mean? You have to kind of 6 months down the line, he's sacked. So that's where I'm just like, you have to kind of look at things, look at projects with a very keen eye before you just say, oh, Bayern Leverkusen did good, but they didn't really win anything. Like, you know what I mean? They won the Bundesliga actually, right? Right. They won the Bundesliga, right? Okay, so that was pretty big, right? But winning the Bundesliga isn't really the most amazing feat. They also went to the Europa League final and got slaughtered by Atalanta. So, you know what I mean? I think a keen eye, and mind you, it was the most obvious decision. He's doing good here. Let's put him here, So I think in that way, I wouldn't call it a trap, but there was something to it where it just wasn't looked at, hard enough. And like I said, even with the players, with Wirtz coming over to Liverpool, $120 million. And look at the criticism he's received since starting. I think he scored his first goal just a couple weeks ago. It's been, anyway, so that's one side of it. But obviously Madrid, they have a lot of egos there. They have a lot of things to manage. And I think that's something that gets tossed around too, because, they might be superstars who have their own kind of... All right, yeah. So that's one side of it. But I know that's, Xabi Alonso, I don't think there was there was a way to manage it. There was a way to manage it and get through it, but it's here where it is.
For me, it's like, I think kind of differently than you in that regard, because I'm like, for me, the mistake was actually Xabi Alonso's deciding to go to Madrid, knowing how things are there. Because I know at the beginning of the season, he asked for tons of signings that he didn't get, not even one. Like, instead of that, Florentino spent 200 million on Mastantuono. And all these players that Xabi Alonso didn't really ask for. So in that, like, it's just that what club are you going to go Like if you're gonna go as a coach to Manchester United, you most likely are going to fail because of the things that are happening there, right? If you
Right.
go to Real Madrid, he's the system coach, right? He needs an entire ecosystem to work for what he wants to be able to have a team that performs well. That's why I'm
Right.
surprised that he didn't go to Liverpool, where if like at the end of the day, it's a type of team, right? If you go to Real Madrid, you know that you're going to be under Florentino's wishes and the players' wishes, right? Because it's a team of superstars. And so I think I don't want to diminish Xabi Alonso's work, but I think he just didn't choose well in that regard because he needs an entire ecosystem to work for him.
Right.
It's
Right.
similar to Ten Hag in Ajax. It's similar to even Flick or Xavi in Barcelona. They're two different types of. They have different
Yeah.
philosophies.
No. The players that are on Real Madrid do not suit that philosophy at all.
Absolutely.
And yeah, because even in Bayern Leverkusen, one of Xabi Alonso's revelations was Ezequiel Palacios, right? And if you know Ezequiel Palacios, he's a box to box midfielder. He does all the work. He makes all the little. He's basically almost like a Frankie De Jong in player profile type wise, right? So that's his job, right? And he did that very well for Xabi Alonso. He covered for everybody. He assisted. He scored penalties. He made some good goals. So Real Madrid, they want to play this direct, pass it to Vinny, pass it to Mbappe, go on the wing, cut in, and let's make something happen. And
They have
obviously,
three left wingers too at the moment, like 3 or 4 left wingers. So I don't think that the squad has been really thought of, and they just really need somebody that put them on the field and let them do kind of what they want, which is not a bad
right.
thing. I'm not going to criticize that type, but it's just not the way Xabi Alonso would have wanted to work. I think he tried to adapt, but I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
he cannot do that, because his mind is he just goes towards of what he wants to play, and I understand him
Right,
too.
and then it started to show up with the players that he was choosing. Early on in the season, he was playing Mastantuono, and you know what? The kid was actually doing good because regardless if he's ready or not ready, he wants to run. And that's what Madrid was missing. He's not afraid to run. He will run up and down and up and down, up and down all. And then I think he got injured, and then after the injury, he wasn't playing as much. Endrick's another one where that's another kid that loves to run. He loves to press. He loves to do all that. Why wasn't he playing? You know what I mean? So I think that also he was making these questionable benching decisions. This player's benched, Vinny's benched today, or we're not playing this. Masatuano, I don't know. We'll see in a month. Like, you know what I mean? Like he was making these weird decisions where that started to anger the players. That started to get on everybody's nerves because, as you know, in a team, sometimes you like playing with a certain player, right? Sometimes you're better off. You're like, why isn't I want him to play with me today? Because I feel like whatever. So I think that wasn't being heard by the players, and he was leaving too many guys out, putting the wrong guys in. And then the disaster of a defensive roster that they have. Rudiger, I can't tell you how many times he's been turned in and out this season.
Yeah.
He's been on his knees just swimming.
Yeah, 100%.
Hoyson, completely overrated. Completely overrated. Like if we're talking Kubarsi and Hoyson, like we're talking like there's no, you know what I mean, in terms of a young defender or whatever.
They're victims of their own narrative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Real Madrid fans are.
Asensio, I'm sorry. Maybe he gives some effort, but he's a funny type of player. He doesn't fit the defender profile
No,
at
it's
all.
not at that level. I don't know.
He looks like number 6, or he should be playing somewhere else on the pitch. He's always just throwing his body everywhere and complaining, and giving a bad attitude. And he's a new Madridista, so you know what I mean. As a new Madridista, you shouldn't be acting so above your rank type thing. So defense is absolutely in shambles. So, and that's what I was going to point out with when Barca faced Madrid. The El Clásico. That was a horror show defensively from Madrid. Like, if Barca wasn't like being calm a little bit, you guys could have scored like 6 goals for sure, right?
No, but there was also a lot of tackles that were a bit too hard for my.
Right. I bet El Clásico.
They were saying, "Oh, Carreras played a lot better than Carreras was able to neutralize Lamine," and I was alive. I mean, if I was permitted to do those tackles to Lamine, I would probably be able to stop him too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm
there
saying?
You go. Carreras is another one. Like he looks like a different position. So the defensive unit is just terrible. And these are the things that I look at a lot. As you know, like I follow Inter Milan. We're a very defensive, structured team. We don't like to gamble too much. We can get beat. You know what I mean? You can beat us for sure. Maybe you're gonna dribble us or whatever. But so it's something that I look at a lot when I look at teams. I think it's very important. It's underlooked. For me, defense still wins games, and you have to not be so vulnerable in those places. So anyhow, I guess that's good enough for La Liga, and we kind of got all our thoughts out.
Well, I think we gotta talk about Arbeloa, and if you think that he has a chance, I don't know.
Arbeloa, well, his first game he lost against Albacete, and then he came back with a win. I don't know much about him other than watching him play. I don't know what his style would be like. Was he in Real Madrid Castilla?
Yes, he was. I think it's very much like Mourinho. It's going to be very similar. But at least I think the positive thing that he has, he's going to be able to have those players, wanting to go to war, so which is something that maybe, Xabi Alonso wasn't able to get that because he's more like a tactical guy. Arbeloa is going to be like, okay, you guys are going to go to war for me and we have to win this game. I don't care, civil or criminal, but we're going to win. We're going to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe he's
gonna in that regard. I think
probably. I know he played Mastantuono both games, I believe, and Mastantuono also scored. So yeah, I think he's the key to this season. I don't know about and I hate to put it on a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, whatever he is, but it seems like whenever I've watched him and he's on the pitch, he's a great outlet for the players. I see Mbappe.
He has that drive, definitely.
That drive. I see Mbappe often passing to him in different spaces because he knows that I pass to this kid, he's at least gonna control the ball properly and, you know what I mean, do what he has to do. Yeah. And then on the other hand, I don't want to go into the players too much, but Bellingham also has been a little bit questionable over the last while. I don't know what's going on.
All the bars in Madrid already.
That's what I've heard too. Apparently Bellingham has been going to a lot of bars, clubs, scoping that scene. I mean, yeah, I think with Bellingham, we thought we knew who he was, you know what I mean? But he's still so young, so we don't know. Yeah. He's a good kid, good personality, nice guy, but you don't know if, like I said, you're saying with the clubs, like if he has that other side to him that is not portrayed in the media, whatever. So,
well, he's
I don't know.
Intervening, he's going. They said that Bellingham's father is at, he's always at the club trying to pressure Florentino for Bellingham to play in certain positions and stuff. He was definitely one of the ones that didn't want Xabi Alonso as the coach. Mm-hmm. But I always say as a Barca fan, that's their problem.
And maybe that's another hidden layer, with their midfield, because their midfield it seems to be, since Modric and Kroos left, it's like a wild west. So, but yeah, as for Arbeloa, if you were to ask me whether he's going to be a revelation or not, I would go with not. I don't remember his playing days as being, a tactical mastermind or anything of that sort. You know what I mean? And especially to have a defender come in and have to deal with attacking players like Mbappe and Vinny and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go with no revelation for Arbeloa, and I think Madrid will have a new manager either if not by next year, by maybe 18 months. They should have a new manager, I said.
Yeah, so we can talk about the Champions League, and I say Arbeloa in that regard. I think Madrid, no matter what they do, no matter who's coaching them or anything, they're always favorites for this competition. It's just a competition they created, and that's why we can assume that maybe on the league they're gonna fall off, but maybe on the Champions League they always have chances because it's 1 or 2 games every round, and then you never know what happens.
I get it. Yeah, I don't see it. I still don't see it this year, just because, like I said, defensively it's just not good enough. If you look at any of the finalists in the last 5, 6, 7 years in the Champions League, sometimes it's luck, and even when Madrid won, they were a lot more firm in the back, a lot more firm. So I don't see it. I don't see a first-time manager taking over a club being successful in the Champions League. I think that's almost rarely happened. Maybe Thomas Tuchel, he did that. I think a couple times. Yeah. So, but he had previous experience of being a good coach and coaching some top teams. So I don't think there's any chance that Arbeloa makes it to the final. Yeah, that's my opinion. Though. Yeah.
I always put, in the Champions League, I always put Madrid as the most possible winner. They created a competition. I don't know if you knew this. They created a competition, and the first 6 Champions League that they played, they basically invited whoever they wanted to play against and stuff. So those first Champions Leagues that they have, and they put them in their 15. So, and then over the years, it's just been the competition that they are more comfortable with, and it's okay. And that's why it has so much marketing nowadays. That's just my opinion.
But I think when Madrid was winning in the modern era, and that's a good point because a lot of their history is backed by history. You know what I mean? So in the modern era, we're talking about Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, Sergio Ramos, Cristiano Ronaldo, Karim Benzema. We're talking about these type of guys that won the Champions League for Real Madrid. I personally, I'll stay firm. I don't see how this Madrid team can do it. And also even you have to remember when they had the Galacticos, right? And how they struggled as well, even with Roberto Carlos, David Beckham, Zinedine Zidane, it took them a while. Ronaldo, R9, Fenomeno. So the thing is, Real Madrid, they could have created it for me or whatever, but I think it's past the point now where we can study it. We can look back and say, and that's why I bank so much on defense and the goalkeeping, because I look at the Champions League's winners and I say, who was the goalkeeper, in these past years. And if you go down the list, you don't really see too many, like the goalkeepers that you see on the list are usually like top tier. Is what I'm trying to say. Like you know that they're the, you know what I mean. We're talking about Courtois, Neuer, Donnarumma. Like you're not talking about Unai Simon winning the Champions League. You know what I mean? So
that's true.
that's how I look at it. I look at the critical details of the recent history, and I see the way the competition is. It's built for the most athletic players, right? It's built also for the teams that can have a continuous rhythm, right? So, and I know it personally too, is because with my club we've been to 2 of the last 3. You know what I mean? So I picked up all these new information on how to win a Champions League type thing through getting through these games, through beating Bayern, through beating Barcelona. Apologies, but
No, it's good. No, I like
yeah,
how you feel.
and then getting beat as well, 5-0 or Manchester City. So I've kind of clued in. You know, Lautaro, he actually came out and said recently how obsessed he is with the Champions League. Like this guy like dreams about it at night, and he said he has an obsession with the Champions League. Like
No,
so
the players are definitely obsessed with it. Sometimes maybe a bit too much, but it's the most popular competition, including for the players themselves. Like it's important to win it and stuff. And I just think that there is a lot of it basically prices the teams that are a bit more on the Inter. Like that's why a lot of Italian teams want it, because it's always been a competition that you have to try to not get any goals, which is the way you kind of see football in that regard. And I think it's fine. And you're right about the goalkeeping thing. It's very important to have a solid defense and solid goalkeeper to win this competition. And if you look at the World Cup, the winners of the World Cup, Italy has won, I think, 4. And it's pretty impressive, actually, because in terms of football, do you really remember a team that, was incredibly, like, had a great attacking? Not really. It was just their defense was very, very strong throughout the years. And the one World Cup that they should have won because they had the star player, which is Roberto Baggio in 94.
94, 98. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's the funny thing. In 94, yeah. No, I was gonna say 94, 98. That's, or even up to 2002. That's where everyone thought Italy was gonna win, and then they won in 2006. So no, comparable with the World Cup too. The defensive unit, the goalkeeper. You're talking about Buffon. You're talking about Casillas. You're talking about Neuer. You're talking about Lloris and Dibu Martinez. Those are the 5 keepers that have won the last 5 World Cups. So when I say Unai Simon, and it's not a dig at Spain, or when I say like Mike Maignan, or you know what I mean, like there's different guys that. Jordan Pickford, even I pick on a lot, like for England. You know what I mean? It's like it's tough. It's tough, because
definitely.
Some of these, yeah.
If you go back in time to '98, where France won the World Cup with Barthez, I remember
too.
That was my first World Cup, and I remember that game particularly was like France very great on defense, counter-attacking, and Brazil had an incredible team, but their defensive balance wasn't. Whereas if you go back to 2002. I think Brazil fixed that problem, and that's why they were able to win the World Cup in that year.
True, yeah. With they had Dida at the time, Roberto Carlos, center defense. Yeah. Anyways, I know what you're trying to say. No,
but if there was matter. Like if there were like someone invented like a Nations League, an actual Nations League with the best teams in the world, which is impossible because of the distance. I think Brazil would have won every time, and now maybe Argentina, but Brazil would have won most of the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. For sure, 100%. Exactly. Even with Argentina in 2006 and 2010 or whatever, 2014, we fixed the defensive balance for 2014, but it still wasn't, enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then to where we are now, and I see our defensive balance, like it's a dream,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how these big competitions go back to the Champions League.
Who's your Champions League candidate for this year?
Candidate wise, very tough to say. I want to say, yeah, it's like, I don't want to say it's a tough, I can't even choose right now. If you were to really, really, because I still put Barcelona, I'd say, as a protagonist, to be honest with you.
We're not even in the top 8 though.
Barcelona, Bayern Munich, it's a big question, but Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Arsenal, PSG, Inter Milan. I think those 4 teams should have a pretty good chance.
For me, it would be probably Arsenal first. I think they have found that balance between attack and defense, in my opinion, which we are always looking for. They know how to park the bus, which I hate to say, but it's also important in this type of competitions.
That's what I've been saying.
They know how to play with the ball. They do know how to play with the ball. So Arsenal would put them first. Then probably I would go with Bayern. Great team, but very, very risky team, very Hansi Flick style as well. Then probably I would put Madrid would be my third, because they're always there somehow. And Inter would be my fourth. I think Inter they want to win it, bro. They just want to win it very hard. So I put you there.
And
Bayern, no, sorry, I said Arsenal first, Bayern second, Madrid third,
yeah,
Inter would be my fourth.
fourth.
PSG probably the fifth, and Barca the sixth, if you want to.
Right. Yeah, we have pretty similar, I guess. Yeah. Madrid, I guess you added in there. I still don't see Madrid, but you're right. You never know. Maybe I think it would be very dependent on Mbappe.
Yeah.
Very, very dependent, like extremely highly dependent on Mbappe. I don't see, maybe if Bellingham wakes up and decides, he wants to. Vinny also, but he's been having a very emotional year. Very emotional year.
Yeah, but those players have such quality that they can just do whatever they want in one particular game. So I'd say, individualistically speaking, they have the best players. So, you never know.
Yeah, true. Okay, so you want to go on to the AFCON quickly and touch on?
Your thoughts, bro. I really want to hear your thoughts on this thing.
Yeah. So very, very interesting. As you know, it was Senegal versus Morocco, and Morocco was the host, right? I don't know if you've seen some of the videos and some of the comments and critiques that have come out of the game and everything that was happening. But to give a quick synopsis for the viewers, essentially, it was a final between Morocco and Senegal. It was a very tight game, closely contested. Senegal ended up scoring, I believe, sometime in the second half. However, the goal was disallowed for a foul that had happened in the area or something like that. A very questionable, very, very controversial goal annulation and having the goal disallowed. Anyways, they went and continued to play. And Morocco ended up getting a corner in the 90-plus minute. And as the corner was being taken, the ball was about to be cleared. And there was a situation with Brahim Diaz where essentially he got underneath the player that was clearing the ball. And realistically, this is not, in my opinion, a foul, right? But Brahim Diaz proceeded to make a big issue out of it, calling the ref out, screaming at the ref, telling him to check it on the camera. Which is the irony in everything. Is the irony in everything, to be honest. So after he had made a big stink about it, the referee finally went and checked, and in slow motion, you could see, some contact and whatnot, and he decided to award the penalty to Morocco in the 9th minute of an African Cup of Nations final, which is just so wrong. On so many levels. At which point, once the penalty was awarded, Senegal was adamant that if this penalty was going to actually be awarded, that they would walk off the field, actually completely walk off. So that's exactly what they did. They walked off and they said, you know what, we're not playing this game under these conditions. Mind you, building up to the match, there had already been some issues with Senegal's team getting to the stadium. They were unprotected by security. They were mobbed by fans. There was a couple peculiar things going on as it was in Morocco, which kind of gives this layer of essentially the Moroccans basically kind of did whatever they could, whether it was messing with their team bus or whatever it was, to try to shake the Senegal team, right? So anyhow, after the Senegalese had walked off the field, there was some discussions on the pitch between Sadio Mane, the captain of Senegal, along with Hakimi, right? And the cameras were kind of going in and out, but you could see clearly that they were having some sort of discussion. And, the way everything kind of proceeded with the events after, we almost feel like we know what was said during that discussion, but not a lot of people want to say it. But I think during that moment, there was some sort of sportsmanship, some sort of gamesmanship, some sort of common understanding between them that maybe Hakimi had said and Brahim had said, hey, listen, I'm going to miss the penalty, so that we are going to continue playing. I do not want to claim this as a fact, right? But with the events that happened afterwards and the conversation that preceded those events, one can only want to think that there was a level of sportsmanship, right, to eradicate the wrong decisions by the referee that had happened in the build-up to this moment. So, anyways, all in all, once the discussion was had between the players, between the captains, Mane goes back and calls the Senegalese team out, right? As the Senegalese team is coming out, he goes and then has a discussion with Edouard Mendy. Now, Edouard Mendy is the Senegal goalkeeper, and he says to Edouard Mendy with the hand gestures, like, just stay calm, whatever, and he whispers something to him in his ear as well. Now, essentially, once the teams had finally went back, they were about to take the penalty shot. Brahim Diaz, like I said, how ironic that he's the one that apparently got fouled, made an embellishment of the foul, and then made a riot and a rampage on the field in order for the ref to check, right? He now steps up to the penalty spot, all right? He steps up to the penalty spot. He decides to shoot with his weaker foot. And he's a left-footed player. Brahim Diaz shot the penalty with his right foot. Okay. And he decided to do a little dinky panenka, right? Which Edouard Mendy essentially collected very easily, and the game went on. Now, not only did Edouard Mendy collect it very easily, there was no celebration. Normally, if you make a penalty save in the 105th minute of a final, what is your defense going to do?
Yeah, it's going to celebrate for sure.
Celebrate for sure, right? So Anyways, that's the way I seen the events play out. They then went into extra time. Senegal ended up scoring 5 minutes into extra time to go up 1-0, and they ended up winning the African Cup of Nations final. One of the most controversial African Cup of Nations final. Definitely leaves a bit of a stain, and a bit of a kind of a questionable eye on what exactly had happened and why it had happened. But yeah, that was my synopsis. Do you have any thoughts on that or what you've seen?
Well, before your synopsis, I really thought that Brahim failed the penalty for real. I thought he wanted to score the penalty, but now that you mentioned that he scored with the wrong food, and then there was like a conversation previously of that, I think there was definitely a premeditated decision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
which is not illegal. That's not illegal, right? It's not illegal.
So I think they might have spoken inside, the Mane with the coaches and stuff, and they made a collective decision. I think it was a collective decision to fail the penalty and keep the game going, right?
Right.
The problem is that the players that I heard that there was a complaint about Morocco's federation or something, that they wanted to play the game again because the Senegal walked out the field and that they were trying to argue that they were trying to argue that. And obviously the players are completely their heads are completely off the final now by that, right? So yeah, I don't know. I mean,
so I actually researched. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think Senegal, it's a better team, right? They played better in a sense in that final, but you cannot analyze football when something like that happens, right? So
exactly. Yeah, no, that's very true. That's very true. So I did look up the rules, and in a case where a team does leave the pitch, it would be up to either the referee or the organization, which is the CAF, like the African organizers. It would be up to them to just say that the game is abandoned, right? As far as I know, I think they left for about 15 to 20 minutes approximately.
Yeah.
And they said, I guess that is like kind of a marginal protest period, as they would call it. And then if it went to like 45 minutes or an hour, then that's when I think organizers would have stepped in and said, okay, this game is abandoned. But until they say that, then there's no rule that's there's no time limit. If I'm protesting something, I'm protesting something. Unless the organizers say this game's abandoned, then there's no. So yeah, very very interesting. Very interesting how that.
It's hard to analyze. Yeah, it's hard to analyze anything within that. I'm happy for Mane though. Like I love this player, but
and at times football is self-correcting, right? Football justice. As they say in Argentina, siempre hay un revancha, right? Like there's always, right? Like that's always the nature of football, right? It may be Real Madrid cheats this time, but they're gonna get it back type thing or whatever,
I hope you're right in that.
Yeah, maybe not for Madrid, but most football teams, like there's that exactly. So
have we spoken about the World Cup now that we have the Canadian subject here?
Now that we have what?
The Canadian guy that made his debut against Guatemala, right?
Okay, right, yes. So Canada actually did face Guatemala, and they ended up winning 1-0 on a headed goal by Rowe, I believe, who scored it. So essentially, because the MLS is now in the break period, right? CPL is in the break period, so there's a lot of CONCACAF players that are available, right? So in preparation to the World Cup, they decided, hey, let's go face Guatemala. Let's have this little test match. I don't even think it was considered an official match. I think it was kind of like
was it like closed doors?
What?
Was it closed doors or there was like public in it?
I think there was some public there. But it doesn't fall in an official window. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
An official international window. Anyhow, so one good thing is that Inter Toronto FC player Jamo actually got to make his debut at 17, I believe. I believe he's 17, right? All right. So that's big news from Canada because it's good to get our young product and our young players playing from an early age and getting that experience, and especially with the program that they're building now, which has been a lot better than say the last 10 years. It's going to be great. It's going to be great for any player that comes into the system now. We're going to be able to create the depth pool of players that we can choose from and take a look at. I know this is a very important World Cup for us as well, and Jesse Marsch, has high ambitions as he's a very confident coach. So yeah, I think it was a great little test match for some of the. It was a great idea to do it in the first place, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of young talent here. I don't know if I ever told you that. I was invited a few years ago. I was invited to train with a team, one session. And yeah, the kids were flying, man. The kids were younger. They were 19, 18 years old. They were flying. They were truly flying. I couldn't keep up with the intensity. I was just there as an invite. And, but yeah, cool. I don't even remember. I think they played in Scarborough. And it was very cool. That was a great
awesome. Yeah. Well, it's building up in here, and that's what we're doing with 90 Minutes or More. You already know.
Yeah.
keeping the Canadian game alive and bringing it to the world too, right? So, yeah, no, I
100%.
think that was very interesting. We're gonna see, there's not a lot of time between now and the World Cup. It's only about 4 or 5 months away,
Yep.
which is very exciting. I'm very ecstatic to see everything that's gonna happen, and the team selections leading up. I know a lot of teams. It's only 26 guys that you can bring, so there's gonna be, like always, those big omissions. So, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think Canada, their group is possible for them to go through, and I support them 100%. I'm obviously going to support them. and
Yeah, yeah.
But like I think this time, although maybe we don't know a lot of players that, well, aside of Alfonso Davies and a couple more players, we have a lot more players playing in the bigger leagues right now.
100%.
So yeah, so I think that little experience that they have playing with people from Europe and South America in Europe, that gives you a little bit of an edge than
For
let's say
sure.
versus the World Cup from 2022. I think the players they needed that friction. You know what I'm saying? And I
Hmm.
think for this World Cup they will have it, and I hope for the best. I think they will go through the first round for sure, and then we'll see what happens. We never know. We hope for a
Yeah,
semifinal.
yeah. Mind you, they did face Argentina twice in the Copa America. I believe in the semifinal. Was it the semifinal? I think
Before that, I think it was before.
quarterfinal. Quarterfinal.
Yeah.
I know it was the group stage and either the quarters or the semis. Yeah, we faced Canada, so that's a good test. You know what I mean? Regardless, the Copa America, all the teams that they played in the Copa America, regardless, just to get that level of intensity. I think in Canada, there's always from before been a bit of the naivety with our approach to football, which is
I agree.
changing. We now understand that it's give it your all or go home. Like
Yeah.
winner takes all. The South American teams, they don't leave any room, for friendliness. Like
We don't look
this
here.
is not a friendly thing. Like this is, I want to actually win this game and I will do whatever it takes to win.
Whatever it
I
takes.
think before Canada was like, you got to play the right way or you got to do this and that. Now we realize, no, you got to do whatever it takes to win. This is football. Like this is,
Yeah.
a killer sport. Killer be killed type thing. So yeah, yeah, no. So I think we
Well,
have more
you said,
experience in that
you
sense
said,
for
you
sure.
said whatever it takes, and I have my dog's toy here.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Right.
Whatever it
Right.
takes. Yeah, bro.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, I think they will, again, what I said before, right? Like the experience that they brought from the last World Cup and this Copa Americas, and the players, having a day-to-day life with players in Europe and stuff, that makes a
Yeah.
huge difference. I think there's Canadian players playing in Spain in La Liga, right?
Right.
So yeah, so I'm sure this is going to be we're going to see a different face of Canada in this World Cup.
Right.
Completely
For
different.
sure. For sure. For sure. It's still going to be tough, though. It's still going to be tough
Yeah,
because that doesn't
it's the
change.
World
It
Cup,
doesn't,
man.
because we're better. It doesn't change that the other teams are still going to give it their all. We still have to face, I think, Switzerland and possibly Italy or whatever. So, yeah, those teams are still going to give it their absolute all. And we got to be ready to score. I think defensively, Canada is pretty sound. The one good thing about Canada is we've always had good players with running stamina. Like we are known as a country that can run forever. Going back to Terry Fox, like you know what I mean. So that in this type of modern football, it does suit it. It does suit
It
it.
does make a
If you can
difference, yeah.
run, if you can keep your stamina up, if you can make 10, 20 of those, long burst runs and keep up, your chances is always good. It's just the clinicalness in front of goal, finishing your chances. This is what Canada needs to put ultra importance on.
Yeah, I agree.
Finishing because they have good chances often. You know what I mean, against some of these teams, and
But yeah,
sometimes they
they
come
still
away with
need
still one or
to
two goals. So
I remember that they played Alfonso Davies as a winger last World Cup, right?
yeah, I hope they don't do that again.
Yeah, because that's exactly what you were saying. You need someone that
Yeah,
actually finishes. Because at the end of the day, Alfonso Davies, unbelievable player, but he's not a striker, right? So once you
yeah,
have him on the wing, he's going to be having more responsibilities to strike more goals or to do more precise assists or stuff like that. So I think now there's players have to kind of play in their position, and I think that's
for sure,
important.
for sure.
And yeah,
And Alfonso Davies, he actually just made his comeback this weekend, or I think
with
either one or
Bayern, yeah,
2 weeks. Yeah, with Bayern, right? So, um, yeah, it's good to see him back, and
absolutely, you gotta
now
get it
now
fit,
it's
yeah.
just about building his strength for the World Cup.
Yeah, for sure. I hope he does. And I think this is going to be a different World Cup for Canada for sure.
For
They're
sure,
they're
for sure.
yeah, for sure. What's your if I have to ask, what are your candidates for this World Cup to win it?
My candidates. I mean, there's a lot of names going on. I still have to analyze some of the dark horses, to be honest with you. But if I was to name a few, I would still take the two finalists from last World Cup, Argentina and France, and then might pair that with, I think England. They might have a chance to go a little bit far. I think a quarterfinal, semifinal for England should be doable this time around. And Spain, of course, because they have the chemistry with some of the Barcelona players, and they know each other really well, so that could play to their advantage. Yeah, but Argentina would be my top candidate for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for me too, actually. I would put Argentina at number one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I want them to win, but I think they're the strongest team at the time. It's a perfect hybrid with defense and attack. And I know this is going to be controversial, but I think Messi, he's still the best player in the world.
Yes.
He's going to be the best player in the world till he retires. I don't care if he's playing in my neighborhood team or in Barcelona. He's still the best.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
A lot of difference. He just controls the game like no one else. And now with more experience, obviously he's changed his style of playing. And again, what I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, he's a cheat code to have in your team. And Argentina has a lot. Like they're perfectly defensively. They're very strong. The attacking is very strong. They're very solid. It's very hard to break.
Right.
Spain, I would have them at the third because of the chemistry of Lamine Yamal and stuff. Portugal probably the fourth. And my second one would be probably France as well. Oh, sorry. I forgot Brazil. I have to put Brazil in there too. Probably top 5 too.
Yeah, so, Brazil, they might be able to turn it around with Ancelotti. We'll see how that happens. One thing I always say with Argentina is one thing that's a little underlooked is the fact that their whole starting lineup is essentially captains. If you go from Cuti Romero in Tottenham, if you go to Lisandro Martinez in Manchester United, if you go to Enzo Fernandez in Chelsea, if you go to Messi, obviously, and you know what I mean. So Dybala, if he ends up coming, like a lot of these guys are leaders. Also, it's a different type of group, Yeah, exactly. Whereas other teams, you look at it, it's going to be like, okay, maybe you have a few leaders and the other players more inexperienced. As with Spain as well, you have a few leaders. I don't know if Carvajal is going to be there or what's the situation there, but a lot of them is their first World Cup, if not second. So, and so I think that's definitely Argentina's a big benefit that a lot of people don't realize. It's like they're actually not only in the national team and the clubs, they're highly, highly rated.
So for me, I guess my top 5 would be, again, Argentina, France, Spain, Brazil, Portugal. Yeah, that's the top 5 for me.
Yeah, that's decent, and that's why I said to begin, I have to examine some of the dark horses because I know for sure there's maybe a team in there that is gonna, like always, not win the World Cup, but maybe be a protagonist, So I have to examine some of the other countries,
Would you consider Brazil a dark horse for this World Cup, or what would you say?
No, I don't think you can consider Brazil a dark horse.
Maybe Uruguay.
Yeah.
They have Bielsa with them.
Yeah. But Bielsa, he's prone to not really doing well in these competitions, even when he coached Argentina. So the thing with Bielsa, he's a great coach. He's an amazing coach, but he's highly unadaptable. He won't adapt to anything. He keeps his.
You're right. But you know what? But I think his style of coaching fits more. His style fits more with Uruguay than with Argentina. So that's why I kind of put him as a probably a dark horse.
True. They beat Argentina. They did beat Argentina, I think.
Yeah, they did.
At some point in the qualifiers. So, yeah, they have the potential there. I think they have the hunger there, too, And you know what? Yeah, they could be a dark horse because their players will probably over-exceed expectations, I think. Yeah. They have some good guys, too, obviously. Valverde, Maxi Araujo, Nunez, Jimenez. So, we'll see how they do. But I'm thinking of also maybe a Belgium. I don't know. I don't maybe Jeremy Doku. He's kind of pretty. He might suit this World Cup too. Some of those fast, intensive wingers could step up. Also Belgium. They have Yuri Tielemans who plays for Aston Villa.
Yeah,
very underrated midfielder, but one of the best. Believe me, one of the best. So if he has a good tournament, he can open up. He's an unlocking type player. One pass and who knows. So.
Yeah. Well, I think there is another layer of dark horses underneath where you could put Japan, Colombia,
For sure, exactly. Japan. There's certain teams that are just suited more for the modern football right now, opposed to an Italy. You're not going to, even if Italy makes it, they're not a dark horse, it doesn't matter how many Barellas and Bastonis they have, it's the style is not there, So, but yeah, Argentina definitely has probably the most hybrid of styles, and then France would be probably close second for sure.